Welcome SAO survivors! In the past 2 weeks, Aria Starless Night movie Blu-ray released, Alicization Lycoris Matricaria DLC leaked early on Steam in its entirety, new SAO side story taking us back to floor 7, and more. It's me Gamerturk and welcome to This Week in SAO for all your weekly Sword Online news. First and foremost, we begin the show with the release of Sword Online Progressive Aria Starless Night movie on Blu-ray in Japan. You'll have to keep in mind that this is the Japanese release. It does have English subtitles, so you can go through the trouble of importing it if sub suits your needs. It is indeed troublesome to import stuff from Japan, so I will link a trustworthy guide on how to do it if that's your thing. However, the Japanese release naturally does not have English dub, so if you're waiting for that one, you'll need to wait a little bit longer, a currently unspecified amount of time really, as nothing, absolutely nothing, got announced at Anime Expo from Aniplex, so that's what we're waiting on, Aniplex USA as usual. But also, with the release of the Blu-ray, Aria Starless Night explained videos will be coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. What I will do is I will separate the movie into appropriate chunks, starting with the beta and real life portions, then Asuna and Mito's time, then Asuna and Kirito's time, and then the Ilfang boss fight. At least that's my current plan, we'll see when I actually start doing them. Afterwards, we'll go into specific topics like cut content. Yes, while I love the movie, there were some cut content and narratives that were not included due to Asuna being the focus rather than Kirito in this one. We'll tackle them all, don't worry. And of course, if you have personal questions yourself, ask them in the comments with hashtag AskGamerturk and I will answer them in separate videos regarding Aria Starless Night. Speaking of explained videos, Scherzo trailer explained may grab your attention, especially if you're looking for some future spoilers or having a hard time matching your light novel knowledge with the trailer scenes. I will link that in the description as well with everything else. Tying all into that, you may be asking what to read before the second progressive movie as well. I recommend reading through Aria Starless Night as well due to a lot not being in the movie as stated earlier, which I'll cover in the explained videos. But whether you want to reread the contents of the movie or read from where the movie left off, you'll have to grab SAO Progressive Volume 1 either way. SAO P1 is a double-sized volume that features both Aria Starless Night for Floor 1, but also Round of a Fragile Blade, the Floor 2 story, as well as a short mini-story with Kirito and Argo called The Reason for the Whiskers. Afterwards, you'll just follow the volume numbers of the Progressive Light Novel series. Progressive 2 is Concerto of Black and White, the Floor 3 story. Progressive 3 is Barcarolle of Froth, the Floor 4 story. I'm pretty certain I'm pronouncing something wrong there. And Progressive 4 is Scherzo of Deep Night, the Floor 5 story, what the next movie is adapting. I'll put Volume 1 linked down below for both Amazon and Book Depository, and you can just move up from there at your leisure. And remember, it's the light novel series that's the source material, not the manga adaptation from different manga artists. A brand new SAO side story is coming as part of the Dengeki Choukansha fair, and it's staying on topic with Progressive. We have very recently completed Floor 7 contents in the Progressive Light Novels, however, this side story will be taking us back to it. 7th Floor Once More is the title of the new short side story, and while its contents are unknown, I'll personally be surprised if it does not have any swimsuit fan service at the casino beach. But it needs to be remembered here, this may indeed be early Aincrad, it may be late Aincrad, or even new Aincrad content from inside ALO rather than SAO. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. July 7 marked the 10th anniversary of the SAO anime release on Japanese TV. As such, numerous official accounts like Amazon Music and Animate shared commemorative tweets for the series. Meanwhile, Idolmaster game dev team shared a Yuki illustration to celebrate. And of course, 10th anniversary celebrations are ongoing with the Japanese voting for the anime episode ranking. They had revealed rank 20 to 11 in a single go, however for the top 10, they switched to a weekly reveal series by re-airing the picked episode each week. As I'm covering the previous 2 weeks today, rank 10 is the Phantom Bullet adaptation, episode 12, titled Bullet of a Phantom, the episode before the climax of the arc, and I surely expect the actual climax to be in higher ranks in the upcoming weeks. Rank 9 was chosen to be the War of Underworld adaptation, episode 18, Memories, aka Kirito's Nightmare Sequence, which is A perfect opportunity to remind you that the nightmare sequence in the anime had 2/3 of it cut away, and if you're looking forward to learning about the entirety of it, I have a special Alicization Explained episode for the entire nightmare sequence, where I go through the real, full, complete, uncut nightmare sequence instead. That will be linked in the description or the icon on the top right. Taking a break from the anime side of things, Nekobyou Neko, the SAO Girls Ops mangaka, is pretty much the most active official SAO illustrator around. Not only have they shared a Bikini Lisbeth illustration to celebrate the coming of summer, but also a quote-unquote Kirito illustration to celebrate the 10th anniversary. However, those of you who are familiar with the Girls of spin-off series, that Kirito is not quite right. Something is sus for sure. To find out, you may want to familiarize yourself with the characters of SAO Girls Ops. Speaking of manga series, English translation of the 5th and final volume of the Project Alicization manga adaptation has been released by Yen Press on July 9. Sadly, much like a lot of SAO manga projects lately, this too was rushed into cancellation, so this final volume does its best to wrap up the Human Empire sub-arc of Alicization, and of course, there is no upcoming planned project at the moment for a War of Underworld manga adaptation. Now that the Alicization anime is long behind us and a lot of manga projects either wasted or cancelled, I can see them dipping their toes into either Moon Cradle or United Ring in the future. It's gonna be interesting if they have a continuation for the canon manga that was left behind by Mugetsu due to terrible fan pressure. That was by far one of the worst events, sadly, regarding the series, losing an artist as talented and amazing as Mugetsu. So yeah, that Progressive Floor 6 manga is still up in the air as well. Moving on to the biggest and the most interesting news of this week, and yes, Aria Bluray release was in this video too. Alicization Lycoris' second paid DLC, Matricaria, was revealed quite recently. About over a week ago, the Steam database was updated with 12 new achievements, meaning the DLC release is actually drawing quite close at this point. However, what happened shortly after was a massive blunder that goes a bit deep. The latest developer build was accidentally published to the public branch on Steam rather than the QA branch it should have been pushed to, before it was promptly reverted within 2 minutes. I will not go into any spoilers at all out of respect to the developers, however the circumstances overall were quite bizarre. I'll provide this screenshot from the menu. That is the absolute zero spoiler screenshot I can show that I have, so please don't ask for more. I talked to Kentun about the entire situation, whom you may recognize as TFBO from the olden days of him translating Hollow Realization patch notes from Japan, which I regularly featured on my game update videos. What he told me was the following: the entire Matricaria DLC was complete in this build, at least on the surface level, since you can never know whether more behind the scenes changes, improvements, or fixes are planned. But yeah, in this quote-unquote officially leaked build, you could play through the entire Matricaria DLC. There is a lot more coming aside from the story, obviously, than what has been revealed so far, so a lot to look forward to in the game, and things that will bring a lot of replay value as well. Some of the things a lot of you have been requesting for some time. I can still hear Hollow Realization fans asking for some of these to be patched into that game too, so a bunch of good stuff. However, while the Matricaria DLC was complete, the remaining game vs. heroine story was not. The outfits for Premier Tia, Kura and Ziliska, as well as their weapons, are already complete and in the game files, but the models of the characters are supposedly not yet complete, and thus the remaining stories are not included in the build either. So basically it seems like the DLC content is more or less ready for the full release with some final QA testing left, but the free update portion to be bundled with it to make it a single update is not, and that is more or less what we are waiting for in regards to DLC release. I suspect one of the main reasons for it taking this long is also the added workload of having to port the entire thing over to Nintendo Switch as well, but who am I to know? Now, I don't know much about the matter, but Kentun suspects the quote-unquote official leak may not have been an accident, but rather tied to the ransomware attack Bandai Namco suffered recently. Take that how you will. All of this, of course, was appropriately reported to Bandai Namco's support team by Kentun as well as others involved, although there's not much to do for them anyway, since the issue was promptly reverted when it was first happening with a very small time window to affect anyone really. Good response time by Bandai Namco on that one, considering if you were to launch into the dev build, your save file got updated into the higher new version and became incompatible with any older version, so it basically would have bricked your entire save file until the update officially released later down the line. Whew. Big news we covered there. On the smaller side of things, Sword Art Online variant Showdown mobile game has opened up an official Discord server, first time for a mobile SAO game, for any SAO game really, an official server. It is actually run by Bandai Namco staff, although I approached the concept of official communities in such a casual environment like Discord a bit too iffy. I was a part of the Sega forums a while back when I was doing a lot of Sonic stuff. The server itself so far looks very well built, and I am looking forward to how it operates once the game is actually going live, but I can't help but feel Discord communities, they do benefit more from the unofficial fan-run setting, and official bureaucracy may just get in the way of constructive criticism and free discussion, so that still requires some observation. Integral Factor, a whole bunch of banners and login bonuses available in Integral Factor. I'm not gonna list everything, just log in, grab your stuff as usual if you're interested in things. There was also a stream last week, but at a glance there was no major news, a lot of statistics about player progression and what level people are, how far are they along in the story, etc. Quite interesting stuff, but ultimately not really news. Unleash Blading also has a bunch of banners, an Ordinal Battle refresh for more rewards, Showdown event and stage ranking both matching the available banners because they want you to wail. Also, lots of login bonuses. Mobile game coverage will return to normal next week. I just wanted to breeze through since I was covering 2 weeks of news today and that many banners is just too much. What do you think about the Matricaria DLC leak situation? Let me know in the comments. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. A lot of you don't follow me on Twitter where I share all the news as quickly as possible, so get to it if you use Twitter. It's the best way to stay in the loop in regards to the latest SAO news. Hope to see you all again next week. Until then, stay cool.